The Galactic Xenobiology Conference had been proceeding smoothly until Dr. Lydia Martinez stepped up to the podium. The human scientist's presentation on evolutionary convergence had drawn curious looks from the assembled delegates. But it was during the question period that things took an interesting turn. High researcher Quillmoth of the Ethereal Collective rose from his crystalline meditation pod, his translucent form shimmering with disdain. Dr. Martinez, while your research shows admirable effort, we must address the fundamental flaw in human scientific credibility. The amphitheater buzzed with whispered translations as various species tuned their universal communicators. Dr. Martinez adjusted her glasses calmly. I'm listening, high researcher. Humans, as we all know, descended from primitive beasts. Quillmoth continued, his voice resonating with what the ethereals considered scholarly authority. Your species crawled from mud, fought over scraps, and spent millennia as savage hunters. How can such base origins possibly comprehend the refined evolutionary paths of truly enlightened species? Murmurs of agreement rippled through sections of the audience. The reptilian Soros delegation nodded their crested heads. The insectoid hive speakers clicked approval through their mandibles. Even some of the more diplomatic species seemed to shift uncomfortably, as if the human's presence suddenly reminded them of an awkward truth they preferred to ignore. Dr. Martinez stood quietly for a moment, scanning the room with the kind of patience that came from years of dealing with academic condescension. Then she smiled, not the polite, diplomatic smile expected at interspecies conferences, but the genuine grin of someone who'd just been handed the perfect setup. High researcher Quillmoth, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. That's a fascinating perspective. I'm curious, though. What exactly did your species descend from? The ethereal's form flickered slightly. We evolved beyond such crude physical limitations eons ago. We transcended our base matter through pure intellectual achievement. Right. But before that transcendence, what were you? We were. Quillmoth paused, his translucent features shifting uncomfortably. We were energy-feeding organisms that inhabited crystalline matrices. And before that, simple, photosynthetic entities. Dr. Martinez nodded thoughtfully, then turned to the Soros delegation. General Kextar, your species prides itself on being evolved beyond primitive impulses. Correct? The massive reptilian straightened his ceremonial armor. Indeed, we are the apex of cold-blooded logic and strategic thinking. What did the Soros evolve from? General Kextar's throat pouches inflated slightly. Ancient saurian apex predators. But that is irrelevant. So, hunters. Well, yes, but... Queen Voice 6 Andra, Dr. Martinez continued, addressing the hive speaker delegation. Your species achieved perfect social harmony through genetic optimization, if I understand correctly? The insectoid's antennae twitched rapidly. Correct. We eliminated chaotic individual desires that plagued lesser species. And the hive speakers originally evolved from? Scavenging colony insects, came the reluctant admission. Dr. Martinez walked to the center of the stage, her hands clasped behind her back in a posture that somehow managed to be both respectful and commanding. So let me understand this correctly. The ethereals evolved from simple organisms that ate light. The Soros descended from apex predators. The hive speakers came from scavenging insects. The Velcari, she gestured to another delegation, evolved from pack hunters with primitive tool use. She paused, letting her gaze sweep across the increasingly uncomfortable audience. Every single species in this room evolved from something that could be considered a beast by someone's definition. The only difference is how recently you did it and how honest you're willing to be about it. The chamber fell silent except for the subtle hum of life support systems and translation matrices working overtime. Humans are unusual, Dr. Martinez continued. Not because we descended from beasts, but because we're comfortable admitting it. We're proud of our evolutionary journey, from tree-dwelling primates to persistence hunters to spacefaring scientists. We don't pretend we spontaneously materialized as enlightened beings. She gestured to a holographic display showing evolutionary trees of various species. Your criticism isn't about our origins, High Researcher. It's about your discomfort with the fact that we don't apologize for them. Quillmotha's form had dimmed considerably. But surely the violent nature of human evolution created a species curious enough to ask questions that make others uncomfortable. Dr. Martinez interrupted gently, persistent enough to pursue answers across galaxies, and honest enough to admit that every single one of us, ethereal, sorrows, hive speaker, human, carries the legacy of whatever beast we came from. She returned to the podium, her presentation remote clicking to the next slide. Now then, shall we continue discussing evolutionary convergence? Because I have some fascinating data about predatory instincts across species that I think everyone might find illuminating. The nervous silence that followed was perhaps the most honest moment the Galactic Xenobiology Conference had ever experienced.